I remember the exact moment my world shattered. It was a Tuesday, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, the kind where you expect nothing more than the usual hum of life. I was making David's favorite lasagna, the one with the extra ricotta and a secret blend of herbs I'd perfected over years of our marriage. The aroma was filling our cozy kitchen, a smell that usually brought him home early, eager for dinner. But that day, he walked in with a different kind of hunger in his eyes. A hunger for something, or someone, else. He stood in the doorway, not even bothering to take off his shoes, his usually neat hair slightly disheveled, and a look on his face I'd never seen before, a mix of guilt, defiance, and excitement. My heart, usually a steady drum, began to tap out an erratic rhythm against my ribs. "Sarah," he started, and just the way he said my name, clipped and formal, sent a chill down my spine. "We need to talk." That phrase. Isn't it always that phrase? The prelude to every disaster, every irreversible shift in the landscape of a life. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, the warmth of the kitchen suddenly feeling oppressive. "What is it, David? Is everything okay?" He avoided my gaze, choosing instead to stare at a spot just above my left shoulder. "No, Sarah. It's not. I'm leaving you." The words hung in the air, heavy and solid, like bricks dropped from a great height. They didn't make sense. Leaving me? After 10 years of marriage, 15 years together? We built this life, this home, brick by brick, dream by dream. Our little traditions, our inside jokes, the way we finished each other's sentences, it was all woven into the fabric of us. I tried to laugh, a disbelieving, shaky sound. "Don't be ridiculous, David. What are you talking about?" He finally met my eyes, and that's when I saw it. The confirmation. The cold, hard truth reflected in his usually loving gaze, now strangely distant. "I'm not being ridiculous. I'm serious. I've fallen in love with someone else." My mind, in a desperate attempt to protect itself, immediately started listing possibilities. A colleague? Someone from the gym? A random stranger? Anything but the truth that was about to hit me with the force of a tsunami. "Who?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. He took a deep breath, and his next words were a hammer blow to my soul. "It's Lisa. Lisa. My sister. My younger sister. The girl I'd protected, guided, and loved since she was a clumsy toddler with scraped knees. My maid of honor. The person who stood beside me on our wedding day, smiling, cheering, crying happy tears. Lisa." The lasagna, forgotten, continued to bubble on the stove, its comforting aroma now sickeningly ironic. I felt a strange detachment, as if I were watching a scene unfold on a screen, and I was merely an observer. This couldn't be real. This was a nightmare. "No," I said, shaking my head slowly, as if to dislodge the impossible words. "No, you're lying. This isn't funny, David." His face, however, was grim. "I'm not lying, Sarah. We've been involved for a while now." Involved. Such a clinical word for such a monstrous betrayal. A while. How long was a while? Weeks? Months? Had they been laughing at me behind my back? Had every family dinner, every holiday gathering, been a twisted charade? The thought made my stomach churn. "How could you?" I finally managed to choke out, the words catching in my throat, laced with an agony so profound it felt physical. "How could you do this to me? To us? And with Lisa? My own sister?" He had the audacity to look pained. "It just happened, Sarah. We didn't mean for it to. We tried to fight it, but we couldn't." Couldn't? As if love was some unstoppable force that absolved them of all moral responsibility. My vision blurred, tears welling up, hot and stinging. "Get out," I said, my voice rising, trembling with a fury I didn't know I possessed. "Get out of my house. Get out of my life." He hesitated, then reached for my arm. "Sarah, please. Let's talk about this calmly." I recoiled as if he'd burned me. "Don't touch me. Just go. Get out." He left. Just like that. The love of my life, the man who promised forever, walked out, leaving me in the wreckage of our decade together, shattered by a betrayal that was almost biblical in its cruelty. You know, looking back, I can see the cracks now. The subtle shifts, the things I dismissed as just life. David had always been close to Lisa. She was the fun aunt, the cool sister. She'd often come over for movie nights, or to help me bake for charity events. I never once suspected. Why would I? She was my sister. Family. The one person, besides David, I thought I could implicitly trust. I remember one particular Christmas, about a year before everything imploded. David and I were hosting, and Lisa was there, as always. She was wearing a new dress, a little black number that hugged her figure, and she kept catching David's eye across the room. I thought nothing of it then. A sister admiring her brother-in-law, or perhaps just seeking validation for her outfit. I even complimented her, told her how lovely she looked. The irony now is a bitter pill. My childhood was fairly stable. My parents were loving, if a little traditional. Lisa and I were always different. I was the responsible one, the planner, the steady anchor. Lisa was the free spirit, a little wild, always chasing the next adventure. I always looked out for her, pulled her out of scrapes, lent her money when she was between jobs. I was the older sister, and that was my role. My identity, almost. When I met David in college, it was instant. We were soulmates, everyone said so. We clicked on every level, intellect, humor, shared values. Our life together was comfortable, predictable in the best way. We had our routines, our dreams of a family, a future laid out like a carefully drawn map. I had achieved what I always wanted, a loving husband, a beautiful home, and a sense of belonging. David was my rock, my partner in everything. Or so I thought. After he left, the house felt cavernous. Every object, every photograph, every shadow held a memory, a ghost of a life that was no more. I wandered through the rooms, feeling like an alien in my own home. The lasagna, cold and congealed, sat on the counter, a monument to a perfect meal that would never be eaten. The first few days were a blur of shock and disbelief. I called my best friend, Maria, my voice raw, broken. She listened, her own outrage palpable through the phone. "Sarah, I'm coming over. Now." Maria arrived armed with wine, tissues, and an unwavering loyalty that was a lifeline in the storm. She held me as I sobbed, snotty and incoherent, into her shoulder. "How could they, Maria? How could they do this? They're monsters, Sarah. Both of them," she declared, her voice firm. "You deserve so much better." My parents were devastated when I told them. My mother cried, blaming herself for not seeing the signs, for raising a daughter who could commit such an act of treachery. My father, a man of few words, simply stared out the window, his jaw tight, a vein throbbing in his temple. He called Lisa, and I heard snippets of the conversation, his voice, usually calm, laced with a cold fury I'd rarely witnessed. It ended with a slammed phone and a declaration, "She's no daughter of mine." That broke my heart further, knowing my pain was tearing my family apart. Lisa tried to call me, text me. Endless apologies, explanations, pleas for understanding. I ignored them all. I couldn't bear to hear her voice, to see her name on my screen. The betrayal was too deep, too personal. It wasn't just David leaving me, it was Lisa, my own blood, stabbing me in the back. The weeks that followed were a purgatory of grief. I lost weight, my skin grew sallow, and my eyes were perpetually red-rimmed. I stopped eating, sleeping, living. Every morning, I woke up with a crushing weight on my chest, the realization hitting me afresh, he's gone. She's gone. My life is over. I remember one particularly low point. I was sitting on the floor of my living room, surrounded by photo albums. Pictures of David and me, laughing, traveling, celebrating. Pictures of Lisa with us, always smiling, always part of the family tableau. I clutched a photo of our wedding day, David looking at me with such adoration, Lisa beaming beside me in her bridesmaid's dress. The contrast between that joyous memory and my present despair was unbearable. That day, something shifted. Call it rock bottom, call it a moment of divine intervention, but I looked at my reflection in the dark window, a hollowed-out version of myself, and I felt a spark of anger. Not just sorrow, but pure, incandescent rage. No. This was not going to be my story. I was not going to be the pathetic, heartbroken wife who wasted away. They had taken so much from me, but they would not take me. They would not take my dignity, my future, my sense of self. This was my turning point. The moment I decided to stop being a victim and start fighting for my life. I started small. The first step was literally getting off the floor. Then, a shower, a long, hot one that washed away some of the despair. I threw on some sweatpants, brewed a strong cup of coffee, and sat down at the kitchen table, a notebook in front of me. My first task, severing all ties. I changed the locks. I blocked David's number, and Lisa's, on every platform. I deleted their emails. I packed up all of David's belongings and left them on the porch with a terse note, "Pick these up or they go to charity." He sent his brother to get them. Good. One less thing to remind me of him. Next, I found a therapist. Dr. Evans was a kind, no-nonsense woman with wise eyes and a soothing voice. In our first session, I poured out everything, the raw, ugly truth of it all. She listened patiently, never judging, only offering gentle guidance. "Sarah," she said, "your pain is valid. But you are stronger than you think. This isn't the end, it's a terrifying, painful beginning." Her words resonated. A beginning. A chance to redefine myself, not as David's wife or Lisa's sister, but as Sarah. Just Sarah. I also reached out to a lawyer. David and I didn't have children, but we had assets, the house, joint savings, retirement accounts. I wasn't going to let him walk away scot-free after everything he'd done. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Eleanor, assured me we had a strong case. "Emotional distress, abandonment, adultery, we'll make sure you get what you deserve, Sarah." Slowly, painstakingly, I started to rebuild. I went back to work. I was a marketing manager at a small tech firm. My colleagues were incredibly supportive, covering for me during my absence, offering kind words and distractions. Work became a sanctuary, a place where I could focus my mind on something other than my broken heart. I also started rediscovering myself. Remember that planner, that responsible one? That was still me, but I also found a new adventurous spirit. I joined a hiking group, something David had always dismissed as too much effort. The mountains became my solace, the exertion a release for all the pent-up grief and anger. I went alone sometimes, just me and the vastness of nature, yelling into the wind until my throat was sore, letting the echoes carry away my pain. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage, women who embraced me with open arms and no judgment. We had girls' nights, went to concerts, even took a weekend trip to the coast. Laughter, real laughter, slowly started to return to my life. It wasn't easy. There were days, still, when the grief would ambush me. A song on the radio, a familiar scent, a corner cafe we used to frequent. I'd find myself paralyzed by sadness, sometimes even anger. But I learned to ride the waves of emotion, to acknowledge them, and then to let them pass. Dr. Evans taught me coping mechanisms, mindfulness exercises that helped me anchor myself in the present, away from the painful past and the uncertain future. And then, there was the house. Our house. It felt tainted. So, I decided to reclaim it. I redecorated, changing colors, moving furniture, getting rid of anything that held a strong memory of David. I painted the living room a vibrant teal, a color he hated. I bought a new, plush sofa, and filled the house with plants. It slowly transformed from a mausoleum of lost love into my home. One afternoon, about 6 months after David left, I got an email. From Lisa. I almost deleted it without opening, but a morbid curiosity, or perhaps a glimmer of hope that she might finally have some genuine remorse, made me click. It was a long, rambling apology. She talked about how guilty she felt, how she regretted hurting me, how she wished she could turn back time. She said she and David weren't happy, that their relationship was fraught with guilt and tension, and that he was starting to regret his decision. She wanted to reconcile, to rebuild our sisterhood. I read it twice. And then I deleted it. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a profound emptiness where my affection for her used to be. The bridge between us was burned, the ashes scattered by the winds of betrayal. I had moved on. Life, in its relentless march, moved forward. The divorce was finalized, in my favor, thanks to Eleanor's tenacity. I got the house, a significant portion of our joint assets, and a monthly spousal support payment that, frankly, felt like blood money but was legally mine. David fought it, of course, but his infidelity and the circumstances of his departure worked against him. He was furious, sending me vitriolic texts, accusing me of being greedy. I blocked him again. 1 year. A full 365 days had passed since that Tuesday, since the lasagna and the shattering words. It was another Tuesday, ironically. I was at my desk, finishing up a report, feeling focused. I had just gotten a promotion at work, my confidence was soaring, and I was even dabbling in online dating, cautiously, mind you, but it was a step. My life was mine again. It was good. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Hello? Sarah? The voice was hesitant, familiar, and yet, different. Thinner. Worn. My blood ran cold. David. I hadn't heard his voice in nearly a year. It brought back a flash of that Tuesday, the scent of lasagna, the cold dread. But this time it was different. I wasn't collapsing. I was standing firm. What do you want, David? I asked, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. A sigh. I need to see you. Please. Just for a few minutes. There's nothing to see, David. We're divorced. Our paths diverged a long time ago. Please, Sarah. I need to talk. About everything. I considered refusing. Every fiber of my being screamed no. But then, a thought struck me. This was my chance. My chance for a final showdown, for closure on my terms. I had rebuilt my life. I was strong now. What could he possibly say that could hurt me anymore? And, if I'm being honest, a part of me, the vindictive part that had healed but not completely vanished, wanted to see him. To see the consequences of his actions. Fine, I said, surprising myself. Meet me at the coffee shop downtown. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. And don't be late. I hung up before he could respond. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. The next morning, I dressed carefully. Not to impress him, but to empower myself. A tailored blazer, a chic dress, my hair perfectly styled. I wanted to look like the woman I had become, confident, successful, and utterly unbothered. I arrived at the coffee shop a few minutes early, choosing a discreet table in the corner. I ordered a latte, took a deep breath, and waited. At 10 a.m. on the dot, he walked in. And oh, how he had changed. The David I knew was always impeccably dressed, full of vibrant energy. This man was a shadow. His clothes were rumpled, his hair unkempt, and there were deep circles under his eyes. He looked thinner, almost gaunt, and his shoulders slumped as if carrying an immense weight. He scanned the room, and his eyes, when they met mine, held a mixture of relief and trepidation. He walked over, hesitantly, and stopped by my table. Sarah, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I simply looked at him, an unreadable expression on my face. Have a seat, David. He sat down opposite me, his gaze flickering around the busy coffee shop, avoiding my direct stare. You look good, he finally managed. Thank you, I replied, my voice cool and even. You, on the other hand, look like you've been living in a ditch. He flinched, but said nothing. The waitress came over, and he ordered a black coffee, his hand shaking slightly as he picked up the menu. When she left, the silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. I didn't break it. This was his show. Finally, he spoke, his voice cracking. I messed up, Sarah. I messed up everything. I just stared at him, my expression blank. He took a shaky breath. Lisa and it didn't last. It was a disaster from the start. All the guilt, the resentment, we just couldn't make it work. We broke up a few months ago. A faint flicker of something, not triumph, but a grim satisfaction, stirred within me. I said nothing. She blamed me for everything. For ruining her relationship with her family, for making her lose you. And I blamed her. It was constant fighting, constant bitterness. It wasn't what I thought it would be. He ran a hand through his hair, looking utterly defeated. I thought she was what I needed. That she was this exciting, new adventure. But it was just hollow. And what about me, David? I asked, my voice low, dangerous. What about the 10 years we built together? The dreams we shared? Was that hollow too? He finally looked at me, his eyes pleading. No. Never, Sarah. Our life, it was perfect. I was just a fool. A stupid, arrogant fool who threw away the best thing he ever had. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his gaze intense. I came back because I miss you, Sarah. I miss our home. I miss our life. I miss us. I know I don't deserve it, not after what I did. But I'm begging you. Please. Give me another chance. I'll do anything. Anything to get you back. He paused, searching my face for any sign of softening. I realize now, how much I hurt you. How much I hurt everyone. I was selfish. Blind. Lisa, she was a mistake. A huge, devastating mistake. You were always the one, Sarah. Always. My latte sat untouched. I looked at this man, this ghost of the man I once loved, begging for a return to a past that no longer existed. He was a broken man, stripped bare by his own folly. The sight of him brought no joy, no glee. Only a profound sense of pity. And a firm, unwavering resolve. David, I said, my voice calm, almost detached. Do you know what you did? You didn't just break my heart. You broke my trust. You shattered my perception of loyalty, of family, of everything I believed in. He started to interrupt, but I held up a hand. Let me finish. For a long time I was lost. I thought my life was over. I mourned the loss of you, the loss of us, like a death. And in a way, it was. The death of a future I had so carefully planned. I took a sip of my latte, enjoying the warmth, the familiar bitterness. But here's what you don't understand, David. While you were off with Lisa, chasing whatever fleeting fantasy you thought you'd found, I was rebuilding. Brick by painful brick, I put myself back together. I found strength I didn't know I had. I discovered a resilience that was forged in the fires of your betrayal. I leaned forward, my gaze steady, meeting his desperate eyes. The woman sitting here today is not the same woman you left a year ago. She's stronger, wiser, and she knows her worth. And her worth is not defined by being the wife of a man who could so casually discard her for her own sister. His face crumpled. Sarah, please. No, David. There is no us anymore. That us died the day you walked out that door. And honestly? I'm grateful. Because your betrayal, as painful as it was, forced me to confront myself. It forced me to grow. To become independent. To truly love and value myself. I picked up my purse, preparing to leave. What you had with Lisa, that was a mistake, yes. But it was your mistake. The consequences of that mistake are yours to bear. I'm not going to be your comfort blanket, your easy way back to a life you threw away. He reached across the table, his hand hovering, desperate. Please, Sarah. I love you. I still love you. I looked at his hand, then at his face, devoid of any pity now, only a quiet resolve. No, David. You don't love me. You love the idea of me. You love the comfort, the stability, the familiar life you lost. But you don't love me. Because if you truly loved me, you never would have done what you did. I stood up, my chair scraping lightly against the floor. Consider this our final conversation, David. I wish you well. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. But it won't be with me. I turned and walked away, not looking back. The coffee shop hummed with the gentle murmur of conversations, the clatter of cups, the scent of fresh coffee. Life was going on. And so was mine. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt an incredible lightness, a sense of liberation I hadn't realized I was still carrying. The last lingering tendrils of bitterness, of unanswered questions, of what-ifs, finally dissipated. Seeing him, broken and begging, wasn't a moment of vengeful triumph, but rather a profound affirmation of my own journey. My life now is rich and full. I'm still at my job, thriving, making an impact. I travel often, exploring new places, embracing new experiences. I've volunteered for a women's shelter, sharing my story, hoping it can inspire others to find their own strength after betrayal. My relationship with my parents is stronger than ever. They've been my unwavering support, my constant source of love. Lisa, well, Lisa is a distant memory. My parents still haven't spoken to her, and I haven't either. Perhaps one day, years down the line, there might be a path to reconciliation, but it would have to be entirely on her terms, and with a level of genuine remorse that I haven't seen yet. For now, I've accepted that some losses are permanent, and some bridges are too burned to rebuild. I'm dating, slowly and carefully. I've learned to listen to my gut, to recognize red flags, and to protect my heart fiercely. But I'm also open. Open to new connections, to genuine kindness, to a love that is built on respect and honesty, not deceit. This story, my story, isn't about revenge or bitterness. It's about resilience. It's about realizing that even when your world is utterly destroyed, you have the power to pick up the pieces and build something even more beautiful, something stronger. It's about finding your own voice, reclaiming your own narrative, and understanding that your worth is intrinsic, not dependent on anyone else's approval or presence. If you're reading this, and you're going through something similar, if your heart feels shattered and your future seems bleak, know this: you are stronger than you think. The pain will pass. The wounds will heal. And you will emerge from the wreckage, not as a victim, but as a warrior. A survivor. A thriver. What would I do in my place? I'd stand tall. I'd walk away. And I'd choose myself, every single time.